you face daily challenges while working in SharePoint? Would you like to automate processes, save time, and work more efficiently without having to rely on power users? You can! QuizCom is your one-stop solution for all your SharePoint needs. With 10,000 plus clients and over 70 SharePoint and Office 365 products, we offer a solution for any SharePoint requirement. Let's take a glance at a few of our products. No-code, smart and secured forms. User-friendly and highly customizable organization charts. Data aggregation across your SharePoint Online tenant and MS Graph API. SharePoint and Exchange Online calendar aggregation. One-click convert to PDF and print. When using a third-party app, have you ever wondered how secured your data is when it's processed on a vendor's cloud server? All QuizCom apps are non-technical and are 100% secured. Your data never leaves your tenant. Discover how QuizCom can solve your SharePoint frustrations. Go to www.quizcom.com today and try out any QuizCom product for free.
All right. Thank you for attending the Omaha365 virtual conference. I hope you're having a great conference, and there's been a lot of great sessions and speakers so far. This session is called Build Your Broadcast with Microsoft Teams Live Events. And my name is John Moore. I'm a lead technology architect at Cerner, as well as a Microsoft MVP in the Office Apps and Services category. And today, for the next little bit, we're going to talk about everything with Microsoft Teams Live Events, how to create them, how they work, why you might want to choose a Microsoft Teams Live event over external encoding options, all of that cool stuff. But first, a little bit about me. My picture's not showing up there. That's great. But if you want to follow me on Twitter, my handle's up there on the screen. It's at John_Moore. Give me a follow and send me an @reply what you think about this session. If you have any questions along the way about Microsoft Teams Live Events or anything in Office 365, we can have a great chat over there on the Twitter platform. But a little bit about me. I've been at Cerner here in Kansas City for 13 years. I've always been in internal IT the whole time. And I started out as a Mac support guy, bringing Macs into our corporate environment and figuring out the architecture to manage those, and moved into a few years later doing virtual desktop infrastructure with Citrix and Desktop. So I was a Citrix admin, owning our virtual desktop environment for several years. And then over the past 4 or 5 years, I've shifted into productivity and the Microsoft 365 suite. So I'm a Microsoft 365 technology architect at Cerner, owning the whole platform, Office 365. And outside of work, some of the interests that I have are I really like drones and drone photography and the programming of drones, all that cool stuff. If you can tell behind me here, I've got some old Nintendo Game Boys. One of the things I really like to do is find old Game Boys and refurbish those. Something fun to do, physically with my hands, and kind of like update these old consoles and relive my childhood playing these games. And then I also am a woodworker. So I own a wood shop with my wife. You might hear her working on some projects right now. But we own a wood shop down in Kansas City and do traditional woodworking, as well as CNC milling and 3D printing as part of that. So technology is kind of always intertwined within my life. So to jump right in, why live video? Why does live video matter? And I think it really comes down to video is pretty obvious, why video is cool and why video is impactful and it's engaging. But you might find, especially with the COVID-19 situation going on, that you get a lot more engagement from your live video opportunities. If you've done any live videos so far, it just happens to be more authentic and engaging, in my personal opinion. Now, according to a Forrester report, they did find a couple years ago that users tend to watch live video over on-demand video 10 to 20 times longer than if it was just on demand. They'll stick around more because it's live. And my feeling on that is that I think it's because you actually have the presenter, you have the expert, whoever's presenting whatever, live in front of you. You can adjust where this conversation goes. There's a Q&A built into Microsoft Teams live events, and even other platforms like Facebook or something like that. The fact that you can converse and communicate with the presenter while they're live means that you can get your questions answered right there. It's an opportunity that you can use that you don't have when it's just on demand. So specifically with Microsoft Teams live events, you get a moderated Q&A, which is fantastic because unlike a Teams meeting where it's just a normal chat, if you're talking about a sensitive subject or you're talking with thousands of employees in your organization, not everything just gets automatically posted out there. The producer or the presenters get to decide what is published and what isn't published. They can have a private conversation with somebody based on their question rather than having that just go out to everybody all at once. Because this is built on the Skype meeting broadcast platform, you have on-demand playback that is externally accessible to your organization, and that works for up to 180 days after your live event is over. It actually uses the same link that you had whenever you had the live event itself. So you don't even have to send out another email. An example of this is, say that somebody sleeps in too late on daylight savings Monday, and they miss a live event by an hour. Well, they don't have to wait for the recording to be published somewhere. If they click that link, they can just watch the on-demand version immediately as soon as the live event is over. Likewise, they can also attend to the live event, and they can catch up if they show up a few minutes late. They can scroll back in time if they need to. And then because of the Microsoft Cloud, because Microsoft Graph and the Azure components, we have the ability to have captions, and that's more accessible for folks that need it for focus reasons or for because they're hard of hearing, for example. But we also get the power of Microsoft Translate in Microsoft Teams live events so that you can actually live translate all of your Teams live events in 6 different languages simultaneously while the event is going on, which is fantastic. Now, there's 2 options when it comes to how you're going to produce your live event. We're going to talk mostly here about the Teams encoding side of things, but there is an external encoding option. I've done several presentations about that external option, and if you want to reach out to me, we can certainly talk about doing like full branding and all kinds of other layouts and stuff like that. But when you look at Teams encoding, that used to be called the Quick Start option. Now it's just called Teams encoding. And the reason why it was called Quick Start is because you don't need any extra software to do the Teams encoding. You just use the Teams app that you already have installed, and it's very easy to get up and running right away. So these Teams encoded live events on the back end, they're using the Skype meeting broadcast technology, which means that they are externally accessible. When it comes to external encoding, that's powered by Microsoft Stream. And those, while you can do more with it, as far as like visuals, those are only employee facing. So if you're looking at externally facing, you want clients to get on your live event, you're going to be looking at Teams encoding. With that, some of the trade-offs are that you don't have as easy branding and scenes. You can't just simply connect something like OBS or some encoder directly to it over just a link. You can do some branding and things like that. We're not going to dive into that in this discussion, but you're using like virtual cameras and stuff like that. That just kind of makes the whole thing a little bit more complicated. So it can be done, but it's not easy to do corporate branding and different scenes and stuff like that. But you do get that captions and auto translations that you don't get with external encoding. When you look at external encoding, these are going to be employee-only events, and maybe you're going to host those in Yammer, or you still just want to host those in Microsoft Teams. You can bring in a feed from any encoder you want, whether it's OBS or vMix or even a hardware encoder. You get to customize the scene, you get to do all of your corporate branding. And one thing you'll notice is if you're playing music beforehand or something like that, you have a little bit higher audio quality than a Teams encoded live event. Teams encoded live events are basically, think of it like a Teams meeting that you're having between the producers and the presenters, And then the attendees are on the outside just observing that meeting. They're watching the meeting, but they can't disrupt that meeting that you're having. So because of that meeting technology, this is optimized for voice. So if you try to play music through a Teams live event, you're going to find that it's not quite as full bodied as you would be if you were choosing external encoding. Now, regardless of what you choose, both of them are available on mobile. Both of them you can watch on the web, you can watch on your phone, and both of them, when you go live, no matter what your encoding source is, they're automatically recorded. Now, with a Teams encoded live event, it's recorded, as I mentioned, in the Skype meeting broadcast technology, so it's available externally for 180 days. On the externally encoded side, that recording is stored in Microsoft Stream, and it's available forever, but just to your employees. So it's something to keep in mind when you talk about recording. A helpful chart that we put together at Cerner to kind of explain this, like, we get the question a lot, like, okay, when do I choose a meeting? When do I choose a live event? And what's the difference between those two? Hopefully this chart kind of helps explain just like what you get with the different options. Teams meetings, I kind of think of it as like a food pyramid. On the bottom is your Teams meetings. That's what you're going to eat the most, right? Teams meetings are 90% of your day, 99% of what you do. Those, probably everybody's been on a Teams meeting by now. These, everybody can talk, everybody can unmute themselves, you're sharing video back and forth, and they're intended to be smaller and collaborative. So they do have an attendee limit. It used to be 250. It's now raising up to 300 attendees, which is a very large meeting. And you notice that things kind of tend to get disruptive whenever you have like dozens of people in a meeting. That's when you start wanting to start thinking about maybe this is a Teams live event. And what it takes is basically being honest with yourself and saying, you know, if I have 150 people invited to this Teams meeting, do I really expect it to be fully collaborative? Do I really expect everybody to be able to unmute themselves and say whatever they want to say? Or is this really just like a one-to-many presentation? Is it somebody has the role of presenter, they're presenting out to a ton of people? Be honest with yourself of what you're actually going to get out of a Teams meeting, and you might look at a Teams live event when you start getting like, you know, maybe 30, 50, 150 people. With a Teams live event, you can actually go up to 10,000 people. Right now, with COVID-19 pandemic going on, until July, you can actually go up to 20,000 people in a Microsoft Live event. That's going to scale back down to the 10,000 number, so that's what we'll leave here for this screen. And then if you use the Microsoft Live Events Assistance Program, which you can find through the Microsoft website, you can go up to 100,000 people in those instances. They create a custom live event for you that can scale up to 100,000 attendees. You also have a limit in the length that you can do a Teams meeting versus a Teams live event. The Microsoft 365 live events, those are capped at 4 hours in length. Now, again, because of COVID-19, they're currently set to 16 hours. So you can have a 16-hour long live event. But in July, that's going to scale back down to the 4-hour limit. So just keep that one in mind. You can have as many Teams meetings as you want in your organization. At Cerner, we have hundreds of thousands of Teams meetings every month, probably every week now that we're all work from home. But when it comes to a Teams live event or a Microsoft live event, you can only have 15 concurrent live events for your entire tenant. That might seem like a really low number, and actually it's been raised to 50 now because of COVID-19, but it's going to scale back down to 15. 15 doesn't sound like an awful lot, but I will say just from experience anecdotally, at Cerner we have 28,000 associates, almost 30,000 people, and we have live events wide open. We've been touting and teaching live events like crazy, and the most we've ever had concurrent live events at one time is 3. So we haven't even come close to the 15, but once you hit that 15 limit, when somebody goes to start the 16th live event, they will get an error that says, hey, there are already too many live events going on, you can't start yours. When it comes to a Microsoft live event, everyone is equal. So you can't prioritize one live event over another. You can schedule as many as you want, but only 15 of those can go live. So you only have 15 slots available And you can't say like the CEO's live event gets priority. So you want to keep that in mind when you think about who can schedule live events, or what is the culture of your company accept. That might be a reason why you want to like kind of scale back and not let everybody in the world create a live event. In a Teams meeting, everybody can talk. That's pretty obvious. Everybody can unmute themselves and say what they want. In a Teams live event, that's locked down. Only the presenters and the producers can unmute their microphone and talk. Regardless of the platform, you can have remote presenters, and you can view it on the app or the web. Only a Teams meeting will allow you to call into it using an actual cell phone as an attendee. There is a phone number associated with your Teams live event, but that's only for the presenters and producers. If you give that to your attendees, they will be able to talk on that live event. They can all be externally accessible, except for the externally encoded. As we mentioned, that's by Microsoft Stream. But according to their roadmap, Microsoft Stream is working to bring external access by the end of this year. And then you get that moderated Q&A when it comes to a live event. You're able to hold those questions back. Where in a Teams meeting, you have just the wide open chat where anybody can say whatever they want and people see it. And then I'll let you read down through the rest of those options there. Probably the only other one to point out is that with a Teams meeting, you need to go out of your way to manually record it. But with a Microsoft 365 live event, the recording is just part of the process of going live. So that's really all I've got when it comes to slides. What I want to do for the rest of the time here is take a look at actually creating a live event. So I want to walk through creating it, how to share content, how to start your live event, manage the Q&A, all of that type of stuff. So the way that you start in live events is you have to create them inside of Microsoft Teams. And that's done in the Teams calendar right here. So the calendar that's built into your Teams app. If you open that up, you're going to see in the upper corner right here, you have new meeting right there. You're going to want to click the little arrow next to that and drop that down so that you can click live event. So if I open that up, now I'm creating a live event, and this just gives me a few more options, a few more controls. So I'm going to call this my super cool event. And then I can add any location. The room lists are available here. And I select my start and my stop time. And I put in a description, like you would do with any type of event that you're putting on. Now, over here along the right-hand side is who is going to do what. What are the roles in a live event? So there are two roles baked in besides just the people who are watching. You have the producer and you have the presenter. The producer has the ability to start and stop the event and decide what's on screen at what point. So you definitely want to kind of keep this list low. You don't want to make everybody producers because then everybody can just end the event. I do recommend adding another producer. So like I'm going to go ahead and add my admin account as another producer. And I like to identify that second producer as the Q&A moderator. That way the producer can focus on what's on screen. They can focus on the actual like go live of the event. And the moderator, they can focus on the Q&A, make sure things are getting asked, make sure things are getting answered properly, publishing questions as appropriate, dismissing questions as appropriate. And what this gives you is also a backup producer. I always recommend having two producers because if your one producer can't make the event when it comes time to do it, you can't start the event at all and you'll have to reschedule it. So this did happen to me one time. We had someone from our comms team. She was helping us out with a live event about Office 365, and she was the only producer. She was the organizer of it, but she also went into labor a few days early, right before the live event. So when it came time to do the event, we all got all set up and everything, and she wasn't able to, we couldn't get a hold of her. Well, it was because she was on maternity leave now. So we actually had to reschedule our whole live event. And I learned that day that you always want to have a second producer so you have a backup person. Now, as you go to add presenters to this, we'll do my other account here. The presenter, to them, this just looks like a regular Teams meeting. So they can share their screen, they can share, unmute and mute their microphone, things like that. You don't have to teach them this whole new user interface like you do with a producer. So the presenter, don't worry too much about it. If they're comfortable with Teams meetings, they're going to be comfortable being a presenter in the live event. Now, something we've learned about adding presenters, you can add a guest presenter that's outside of your organization. What you do need to do, though, first is add them to a team somewhere so that their guest account is created in Azure Active Directory. So, maybe add them to like a, My Event Presenters team so that you can collaborate and work with them. And then when you invite their guest account here, they will need to switch that account. They'll need to switch their Teams app to your organization in the upper corner, and then they can join as a guest presenter. So you just want to keep that in mind. Add them to a team and have them change their organization to your org, and then they'll be good to go. So we click next here, and this is where we can actually set up all of the visibility and settings for our live event. There's 3 levels of visibility when it comes to a live event. The default is org-wide. This would be anyone at Cerner. This is the tenant that I'm scheduling it in. Anyone in my company can attend this live event if they get a hold of the link. So they do have to log in with their corporate credentials, but any of them can watch it. If I want to lock that down more, I can click people and groups, and I can select individual people. I can even do external email addresses, and then I'll have to log in with that Microsoft account. Or I can do groups of people. So if I only want people who are in a Microsoft team or people who are in a Yammer community, I can search for those Office 365 groups right here and add those to lock it down. One example of that might be, maybe we're talking about benefits for next year, and we only want compensation decision makers or executives, director and above. If you have those people put into Active Directory groups, you can lock down that so that even if somebody snoops a calendar and finds a link to a live event, they won't be able to join it unless they're in that group. On the flip side, on the wide open side, you can select public if your IT administrator has enabled public live events for you. This you could send to customers, you could send to clients, and they don't have to log into anything in order to attend your live event. So this is the wide open public option. If we scroll down a little bit, these are basically all of the settings that we have available. Because I selected a public live event, you'll see that external app and device, that is grayed out. That's the external encoder we talked about a little bit earlier. We're going to go with Teams encoding because this is external. And you'll notice that the first option is grayed out. This is that the recording will be available to the presenters. So it's going to record no matter what you do. If you go live, it's going to be recorded, and the presenters and producers will be able to watch that, no problem. The second option is your on-demand option. So this is the recording is going to be available to the attendees, and I'll scroll in a little bit here. The recording is available to attendees. This you can turn off or turn on. If you leave it checked, then like I mentioned, people can just click the link 5 minutes after the event is over, and they can watch the on-demand version. And they can do that for up to 180 days. Now, if you have a real sensitive topic or you want to edit that live event before people can watch it, you'll want to uncheck that option so that then you can download the recording, edit whatever you need to edit out of it, and then you can upload it to some other platform to share it with your attendees. So that is an option, but personally, I don't think I've ever seen somebody not make the event on demand, but it is there for you. Now, captions, this is available in preview right now. You basically select what your language that you're going to be speaking in, English for me in the United States, and you can also choose 6 other languages from this list here. I think there's about 60 of those in Microsoft Translate. So if you want, French and German and Hebrew, you even have the ability to do Klingon, the Star Trek language. So there's 60 plus languages available in here powered by Microsoft Translate that you can select as well. And you can select up to 6 of those so that people can translate it into their native language. The attendee engagement report, that'll be checked by default as well. This gives you a CSV file at the end of your event so that the producers can download that file and see when people came in and when they left. Now, if this is public, you're not going to see who they are unless they were logged into a Microsoft account. But if you choose org-wide or the people in groups, you'll actually see who they were specifically. So if you need to take attendance on a live event and you're using like org-wide, you'll actually see when the person joined, you'll see when they left, as well as some other information like what browser were they using, what general area of the world were they in. Were they in Kansas City? Were they in the United States? Things like that. It's not super granular, but it kind of gives you an idea of what was going on. And then at the bottom right here, you have the Q&A. I always recommend turning that on. That's that moderated Q&A where you can have interaction with the presenters. So now that we've selected all those options, really all I did was I just checked the box at the bottom for Q&A. We're going to go ahead and hit schedule. And then after that spins up for a second, that creates a calendar invite. Now this calendar invite will be sent to all of the people in the list right here along the right side. So the producers and presenters, this will be added as an Outlook invite for them. And the key here is you do not want to forward this invitation. So it actually puts it in bold text in the calendar invite. Do not forward this to other people who aren't in this list, because basically they won't be able to join the meeting because they're not one of these specific particular people. Instead, when it comes time to share your event, to advertise your event to your attendees, you're going to want to click this link at the top, Get Attendee Link. Now, if you click on that, that will copy it to your clipboard. Now you can share that in an Outlook invite. You can share that on SharePoint, Yammer, or something like Eventbrite, or whatever you use to do registration. So you've got the attendee link there. There's basically two links at play. Share the attendee link. The meeting link is just for the presenters and producers. Now, if I close this, my super cool live event is right here on my calendar. When I go at the end of my live event, when I go open this up again, this is where those resources will be. So I'll be able to download the recording, I'll be able to get the attendee report and all of that. So let's fast forward to pretending that it's time for our live event to start. As the producer, I'm going to go ahead and join this live event. And you'll see that I've got my super cool live event. At the top, it says that I'm joining as a producer. So if I check my hair, make sure I look good, got my camera, my microphone, I can actually click custom setup right here, and I can select what microphone and webcam I want to use. And also, if you want to see what it looks like to the attendees, this is a button that people miss a lot. You can actually join it as an attendee if you want. So a lot of times what I do is if I have another device available, like my phone or something like that, you can join it as an attendee, and you'll see a delay because there's about a 30-second to a minute-long delay between the processing of the video and delivery to the attendees. But you've got the ability right here, though, to see what it looks like to the end users. So I'm going to go ahead and join as a producer, and that's going to share my camera, and my microphone is muted right now. So once I get connected here, you're going to see it looks a little bit different than a regular Teams meeting. You've got two windows right here up at the top and a little bit more control over what's going on the screen here. So at the bottom, or let's start with the left-hand side. The queue right here along the side, this is basically what is coming up next when it comes to your live event. So you can put your next presenter there, you can put some content right there, and then you would click the Send Live button right here in the middle. You would click that to send it over to the live event, which is the left-hand side. Anything inside of this box is what the attendees are going to see while they're watching your live event. Now, I do have a little bit of layout options. So if I select my face down here, then all of my presenters, they will show up down here along the bottom. The shared screens will show up here at the bottom. And I can click on my face, and then that looks good. I want to send that to the live event. So now it is in the area where people would see it. Now, people aren't going to see this yet because we haven't started the live event, but there's my prompt right there saying click start to go live to the attendees. So you queue everything up, you get it all ready, and then you want to go ahead and hit start. It tells me that, hey, there's going to be a little bit of a delay. It's going to be 16 hours. This will go back down to 4. But I hit continue, and now that's going to start my live event, and this will turn into a red box. So now we're live. People are seeing and hearing what's coming out of my camera. They're not hearing me right now, but if I unmute my microphone right there, that little mic icon, now they would hear what I'm saying. And you can track how many attendees are in your live event. Up here in the upper corner, you'll see 0 attendees. So you're not going to see the specific people like you would in a Teams meeting. What you're going to see is a running total. Remember, we're talking about hundreds, potentially thousands of attendees in this live event. So you're going to see that number tick up, but you won't see who they are until you go get that attendee report at the end. Now, as a producer, I can also share content from here. This is down in the lower corner. I'm going to click share right here. And let's just share this window, this application down here. So I have shared my PowerPoint slide deck, and I basically have 3 layout options available to me. I have my full talking head, which probably has a little bit of a delay from my microphone right now. But I have my full, presenter talking with no content. Or I can click on the content and I can send that live, and I have full screen. So you've got full screen or full presenter. And in the context of a live event, I can actually click this layout button right here in the bottom corner. If I click on that, I get a nice split screen. Now, you can do 2/3 of the screen is the screen, the shared content, and 1/3 of the screen is one of your webcams. So you can select one of your presenters to be on the side, and you can select your screen to be over on the left-hand side. If I send that live, now everyone will see this side-by-side view where you've got the presenter and you've got their content being shared. Something to keep in mind with this is those are the only 3 layout options you have. The full presenter, the full screen, or side-by-side presenter with the screen. You cannot share unfortunately, you cannot share multiple presenter webcams at a time. You can hear multiple presenters. They can all be unmuted and have a conversation, but there's no panel view when it comes to a Microsoft Teams live event. So you want to pick who the main presenter is and be able to show them on screen. Or if it's a co-presentation, you may just want to send their screen only, and then everyone will just hear their audio coming through the live event. So that's the idea of switching content, sharing content around in a Teams live event. Now, up here in the upper corner, there's all these buttons along the top edge here. This is where you control all of the extra features of the live event. So the big one is the Q&A. You have the live event Q&A right here. As new questions come in, you'll see a little purple dot in the upper corner right there, and you'll see a question come across, and you can decide what to do with that question. You've basically got 3 options. You can privately reply to the person. You can publish the question, which will put it as a featured question for all of your attendees, or you can dismiss that question. There's a little black X in the corner. You can click on that. That would move it to this dismissed area right here. But as a producer, as a moderator for the Q&A, you want to basically watch this new tab, and those are where the questions will come in. A lot of times as people get a lot of questions flooding in, they will just publish all of them, and then they will let people upvote the questions that they want. So to show you what that looks like, I'll go ahead and make an announcement real quick. So as the moderator, I can make an announcement in this live event. One of the things that people always ask is, hey, is this getting started yet? I can't hear anything. Are we getting started right now? You can say, welcome everyone. We'll get started in 2 minutes. So you can just kind of go ahead and not have that question come in all the time. As a producer, you can make an announcement, and then that will show for everybody in their Q&A as an announcement, and they'll have this little thumbs up button right here. If they click the thumbs up, they can upvote the most popular questions. And this is really handy for the producers of events that might be thousands of people attending this event. You're going to get a lot of questions coming in, and you might just want to publish all of those. And you may not have time to answer all of the questions. What you can do is, as a producer, you can switch this little filtering right here in the corner. You can switch that from most recent questions to most liked questions. And then those most upvoted questions will be filtered up to the top for you. So you can kind of prioritize what you want the presenter to actually answer. You can also add a public reply. So I've published this announcement, and then I can say, like, great point, John. And that will show as a reply to this particular bubble. If I want to make another announcement, I do that down here at the bottom. Hey, everyone, the slides will be available at the end of the event. So there's the second most common question that everybody asks is, can I download the slides? You can go ahead and you can get ahead of that as a producer by making an announcement that everybody can see. So that's how the Q&A works. You can also turn it off, but I recommend that you leave it on. And the reason being, leave it on so that people can ask questions as the event is going on, and it eliminates the view of that delay. So I mentioned that there's a delay with all live streaming technology. There's going to be a delay that you have to deal with. And one of the worst things that you could do as a presenter is get to the end of your live event and then say, hey, everybody, we're ready for questions now. Do you have any questions? And then now you've got to wait for about a minute for everybody to hear you ask for questions and then type their question in the box and send it to you. A way that you can avoid that, and then people they'll never even know there was a delay, is if you take the opportunity to ask for questions up front, and then if you remind people periodically through the event, hey, if you guys have questions, go ahead and throw them in the Q&A. Make sure you ask your question using the Q&A feature on the side of this live event. You want to remind people that it exists, and then when it comes time for questions at the end of your event, you'll already have a whole bunch of them queued up ready to go. So that to mention, as you're watching this right now, please leave your questions in the comments below, and I'll be hanging out while this event is live, while this video is published, and I'll be happy to answer your questions as we go. So that's the Q&A feature right here. If we move along the top edge right here, we can take meeting notes. So because this is just a meeting between the presenters and the producers, you have the ability to do notes and chat. These notes are not accessible to the attendees. So this is a good place for you to take action items. If you're like the moderator, you can write down a list of like links that you promised the attendees, or things like, oh, we should do this for next time. You can take those notes there and the attendees cannot see that. Likewise, there's a meeting chat right here at the top. If you click on that, that's your back channel discussion between the presenters and the producers. Again, this is not accessible to the attendees. So this would be where, as a producer, you would say, presenter number 3, hey, are you ready? You're up in 5 minutes. Do you need anything? You can have that side channel discussion with them without showing that to all of your attendees. This is also a good place to say, like, hey, you're having some background noise, and you can kind of let people know that. If you need to add someone to your event, or if someone doesn't show up to your event, one of the presenters, you can actually use the People tab here. So a lot like a Teams meeting, there is a participant pane. They call that the People pane right here. And if John Moore admin is kind of slacking off and he doesn't join my event, but we need him to join, I can just right click as a presenter or as a producer, and I can ask that person to join. So you can click on that. That will call the person in Microsoft Teams. When they answer the Teams call, they'll be added to the bottom here as another presenter. Likewise, if you have like the need to do an ad hoc presenter and say that last minute you need to add somebody from your organization that you didn't think was going to be a presenter, you can actually type any name right here. Like I'll type Joe Bossler. If I click on that, that will call him again into this Teams meeting, and he'll be a presenter in my live event. Then I can take his webcam, I can put it up on screen. So you do have the ability to do that. Likewise, you can copy the join info to your clipboard, that little like link icon right there. If you copy that, you can IM that to someone and say, hey, jump on this call, and then they'll be a presenter. Finally, right here along the side is that gear icon. You can choose from all of your different speakers, all of your different microphones that are available to you, and all of your different cameras. You can also decide whether or not you want to turn on the live caption. So if you have somebody, say that you selected English United States, and you have someone from the UK comes on and they're a presenter, but the accent is confusing the Microsoft Translate function. If it's pretty bad, then you can just go in here and you can turn that off so that you don't have an embarrassing caption snafu happen. So that's where your switch is for captions. So with that, that's a rundown of basically all of the features, all of the how to switch the live event content, switching from presenters to their content, switching to another presenter. You would just select them in the list down here at the bottom. So I'm going to end this live event so that we can go look at the resources, and then we'll go ahead and wrap this thing up, and I'll be happy to answer your questions as I mentioned in the video or via Twitter. So this event has ended. Once you end a live event, you can never start that live event again. So that's why it's important to know who's a producer, because the producer has the power to end it in a way that it can never start again. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. I'm going to go ahead and leave this live event. So that takes me out of this window and should take me right here back to my calendar. So now that the live event is over, I look at my calendar, I identify that this is my live event by the little live event streaming icon right there. I can open it up and the live event resources will start coming in right here. So right now I've already got the Q&A report. If there were questions that were asked during your live event, you don't have to worry about writing all those questions down. A presenter or a producer can actually go download all of the questions in the report. It will show who asked it. It will show when it was asked, and then you can follow up with that person offline if you need to. You also get the attendee engagement report. So again, that will show you who joined and when. You can, if something happened in your live event and you now all of a sudden you don't want to make it on demand, you're like, oh no, we need to not let this get out. You can also disable the recording availability so that people can't watch it later on. You can also download the transcripts and in the different languages. And then if I refresh this page right here, you want to refresh this list. If I refresh this a couple times here, after about a minute or so, the recording will show up. So up here above the Q&A report, the recording will show up. That's where you can download an MP4 version of your live event recording. So, and that's going to take a little bit because we were live for about 15 minutes there. So that's a rundown of live events in Microsoft Teams. My recommendations, again, have multiple producers if you can. You want to separate out your producers from your presenters so that the producers can only worry about the quality of the show and what's going on in the show itself. They don't have to worry about the content part of it. So I recommend splitting out your presenter from your producer. And leverage that Q&A. Use the Q&A throughout so that you don't show off the fact that there's a delay because of live stream technology. If you want to look like a pro, use that live event Q&A so that you can make announcements and you can address questions as you go. So with that, it's a fairly straightforward process to do Microsoft Teams live events. If you have any questions, please let me know. And if you want to download these slides, you go ahead and scan your screen right now. This little QR code, if you scan that, it will download this slide deck directly from my OneDrive. So again, follow me on Twitter if you want to ask me questions, and I'm happy to take your @replies, and I hope you have a great Omaha 365 virtual conference. Take care. Thanks.